Disciples in that boat that night said, do you care that we're about to die? The Bible said he just stood and said, peace be still. And then they looked at each other and say, hey, what kind of guy is this? That even the winds and waves obey his voice. You're God. That's who that is. You don't serve a dead God. You don't serve a boring God. You don't serve a God that's normal. You serve a very supernatural, powerful God that's ready to step into your life, in your storm, and in the middle of all your doubts and fears, stand to his feet and say, this is the end. This is the peace moment. This is the time you're going to be restored. You know, when calm comes, we tell our people all the time, courage does not mean you stand with all the answers, knowing what you're about to do, with all the strength necessary to do it. Courage is when you stand scared to death, totally terrified of what lies ahead of you, having no idea how it's going to be financially paid for, no idea how you're going to make it to take that next step, but saying, you know what, God, I trust you so much, I'm going to go anyway. Just again in review, if you remember this morning, we were talking about how you're going to become the person you were made to be, running your race. You'll run one of three races, remember? The race that somebody else has laid out for you, the race you've laid out for yourself, or the race that God has designed. You'll live your life by default or by design. You need to make sure you're living by design. We said in the beginning, you've got to clean out the things that don't need to be there so God can bring the things in that do need to be. We went on and we said you got to pace yourself, and you got to understand that the things that God has started in you may take time to develop. So trust God on a daily basis and just lean on him and rely on him. We closed with the thought of spending time with Jesus every single day. You will never soar with the eagles while you're hanging out with turkeys. You'll never do it. You want to soar, you get around the one that can make you soar. You get God and his word. We say it all the time. It's not about getting you into the scriptures. It's about getting the scriptures into you. That's what makes the difference. It's not about knowing, hey, this is my Bible, I'm going to read it. It's about not having that Bible and walking through life. And then all of a sudden God says, hey, you remember what I taught you today? You remember what I shared with you last night? Use it. This is the moment. It never fails. Every day in my devotions, I'll find something that by the end of that day or by the end of the next day, God's going to use it in my life or in somebody's life around me. And it's the days that I'm not in my Bible, and can I just be real with you? Those days do happen, right? I want to share that because some of you think it's the end of the world if you miss a day. No, you don't need to miss a day, but hey, it happens. But it turned around and he said, okay, Brother Josh, we got a half mile, let's finish. And he ran every step of the way to me till the finish line, and he slapped me on the butt, and he says, boom, I told you you could do it. But there was a team of 5 of them. He says, but I got to go, I got to run the rest of them in. And as I stood there and I watched Steve run to the finish line 5 different times, I heard God saying, Jesus saw the joy ahead of him. He finished his race. And as soon as he crossed his finish line and he presented himself to God, and God looked on the travail of his soul, looked on his blood, and he said, I am satisfied. Sin is paid. It's all taken care of. He said, okay, now I'm going to go live with them, and now I'm going to be in their hearts, and I'm going to be in their minds. And he turned around and he ran back to me right there where I was in that apartment, broken and lost and lonely and hurting. And he said, get up. We're going to finish this thing. I'm going to run with you to the end. And my Bible says that he that began the good work in me will perform it to the day of Jesus Christ. He will finish that work. And what God is doing in your life and what God is doing in mine, you surround yourself with a team, and I guarantee you, you will cross the finish line one day.